Hello everybody. In this episode I'm going to be showing how to merge audio and video together, especially if you're working on, say, like a film, short film or a feature film where you are syncing together, where you're doing basically shooting sync sound during the production. You have a separate camera department and you have a separate sound department, which is very standard on a film set. The camera people are worried about recording the images, and the sound people are worried about acquiring the audio from the actors, the dialogue that is being spoken on set. So when they are recorded separately, you'll have a slate much like this that is used to call out the shot. So when you are shooting, every single shot's going to be numbered. You're going to have a very specific number for every single shot, and you're going to have a slate where they're going to be showing a visual to the camera of what number that shot is, and also the sound of what that same number is. So the sound department is getting a reference of what the shot number is called, and the camera is getting a reference, a visual reference of what that shot is numbered. And then they're going to be synced together in post-production, and they'll be synced together with the visual clap of the slate and that sound of the clap. Together will be pulled. They will both be synced up and merged together as a clip for the editor. And this is usually an assistant editor position that will be doing the syncing and organization. If you look at the way this short film was organized, it's only like a 2-day shoot. But if you go into day one, every time the cards are changed out of the camera, they're going to change roll number. With this, they only used roll number 1 here on A camera and B camera. So you've got roll number 1 and for the A camera and for the B camera. They're both called roll number 1. That's the footage for that day. And then also on sound, you have roll number 1 for sound for that day as well. It doesn't necessarily have to coincide with the day. It's just whenever you swap out your cards, they're going to, if they use more than one card this day, it would have gone to roll number 2, but they only used one card. So now on day 2, of course, they went to roll 2. They used new cards. They used 2 cards for the whole shoot. The roll 1 was for the first day, and roll 2, they swapped out cards and used roll 2 for their A camera and B camera. They have 2 cameras, and then roll number 2 sound as well. So they use a second roll for the sound there. And that's how that's organized into days and into roll numbers. If you use several rolls during the same, if you use several cards or several film rolls, as they would call it, during that day, you would have roll 1, roll 2, roll 3, and then when you start on day 2, you'd have roll 4, roll 5, and continues on. So let's go to our media browser and import some of our footage to get started here. I'm going to go to day 1. And by the way, with your media browser here, if you arrow up and down, it chooses these folders here. And then if you arrow right, it'll open up a folder, and arrow left will close a folder. I'm going to arrow right, go down to my roll 1 A camera, go down to the footage directory here. I'm going to grab all the footage from day 1. From day 1 camera A, I'm going to right click and say import. It will import that footage. And now I'm going to go to roll 1 camera B here. So 2 cameras being used to shoot at the same time to kind of speed things up. And here's my footage here, so I'm going to select all, Control A, right click, and import. Now I'm going to go to my sound, go to roll 1 sound, and I know my audio is in folder 1 there. Select all my audio, right click, and import. Now that all that is imported, I'm going to go to the main project window here, and I've got all my footage imported and kind of unorganized. So I'm going to do a quick organization here. I'm going to select my B camera. And since it's just day 1, I could save my project. I'm going to go File, Save As, just for Assistant Editor organization. I'm going to call this Left Hanging Day 1 Sync, just so I know I'm just syncing day 1 here. And for every day that you have, you might want to organize these into different project files as well. Now I'm going to grab my footage from my B camera. I'm going to hold it over this folder here and just call this B camera. B cam works just fine. I'm going to grab all my video from my A cam, drag it over, drop it, and call that A cam. And I could have done this before while I was importing as well, but I'm kind of doing it after the fact. I'm going to grab all my audio here, put that in a folder, just call it day 1 audio, and then I've got my A cam and my B cam. Alright, so one thing I'm going to do before I really start doing the syncing here, so I'm going to hold down my Alt or Option key and double click on my audio, and let's take a look at audio here. I'm just going to double click on one of these audio files here and take a look at it, and notice that this has a left channel and a right channel. This was recorded with one mic, but they used an H4 Zoom recorder, I believe, which kind of automatically takes a mono channel and creates a stereo channel. It sends the exact same signal to the left channel as to the right channel. It makes what's called a stereo signal. And mixing is going to be far easier if this is a mono channel, because each signal here on the left and the right, and this is all in one file, is basically mirrored. So to simplify things just for sound mixing, I am going to convert these to mono here. You don't have to always do that. If you have like true mono files and you're recording with a single microphone on set, it's going to be easier to just use those mono files. But these ones came in as stereo, so I'm going to fix those. So I'm going to hit tilde over my window here and look at all my files. I'm going to hit Control A and select all my audio files. Now I'm going to right click on these and I'm going to say, let's modify these. And first of all, you got to make sure all the audio files are consistent and the same. And I know they are. I've looked through them. I'm going to go to modify and modify my audio channels. I'm going to tell this that I want to just make these into a mono file. I'm going to say, let's just use mono right there. And then I'm going to say whether I want to use a left or a right. And these are basically exactly the same. Sometimes they'll record one channel to the left and one to the right. One to the left is being like a lower audio level, and then the right will be the exact same audio signal, but it will be elevated. They'll turn it up louder. And this way they have more of a dynamic range with their audio that they can use to mix. But this was fairly consistent audio. I'm just going to use the left channel, hit OK. And I'm going to double click on one of these now and take a look at the nature of the file. And look at this. Now it's just one single file with one single audio waveform here, and much easier to use than the stereo file. I want to move into my audio here and see how loud these levels are as well when the actors are talking.
Apart from sharing an 8x7 box with some random dude for the last 10 years.
Okay, and this audio is pretty good. This is recorded around like -18 to -12. Sometimes audio artists will record down near like -24 just to make sure that they, once again, have a higher dynamic range. So if the actor yells, they'll be able to, that won't clip out at 0. But these ones were recorded around like -18 to -12, so it's a pretty good level. If you needed to, you could gain all these before you actually start editing. We could grab all these files, and if they were recorded at -24, we could hit G for our shortcut. It brings up the audio gain, and we could gain these. If you were at -24, you'd want to bring your decibel levels up by about 12 and hit OK. And so it would be, so your audio levels would be hitting around 12, and you can actually hear the audio that you're editing. But that's not necessary on these. I'm going to add just 4 decibels on these because they were a little bit low, and hit OK. And let's take a look at that.
By 7 box with some random dude for the last 10 years? Hey, fair to partly cloudy by all the things.
There, it brought the audio up a little bit louder there. So it's a little bit louder, and it can be mixed later. And whoever's going to be doing the sound mix can actually access original files if they need to. There we go. So our audio files are prepared. I'm going to go back to our main window here, and I'm going to generate a timeline. First of all, I'm going to start with my A camera stuff. I'm going to generate a timeline here. I'm just going to grab one clip and drag and drop it in my timeline. Now I'm going to select this clip that I dragged to my timeline, delete, so now I've got a timeline generated. I'm grab this timeline and drag it out, or sequence. There it is right there. I dragged it out of my folder, and we're going to call this sync for day 1. And I'm going to have all my files synced in this same window here. So my first step that I'm going to do here is I'm going to name my audio files. This will make things, especially with 2 cameras, since they're shooting with 2 cameras, it's going to make things a lot easier when I start actually syncing these things. But I'm going to double click on each file, listen to it, and I can see that there's probably a clap right there and a clap right here. This is probably for A camera and for B camera. They point the slate toward each camera and do a slate. They'll tell everybody to roll the cameras and tell everybody to roll sound, and then they'll say A camera sync, and then they'll clap in front of the A camera, and then they'll say B camera sync and sync it in front of the B camera. Let's see if that's the case here. All right, so let's listen to see if that is the case. I'm going to get it right here, because this is probably the slate right there, that little, let's zoom up here. That is probably the slate right there, and that's probably the person calling the shot name.
B camera scene 9, take 2.
It says B camera scene 9, take 2. Then he hits the slate. Let's see what this one says.
A camera scene 9, take 2.
And then he does an A camera one. He actually calls it out for A camera and then does a marker. So right now what I'm going to do is name all these files. So this file is named
B camera scene 9, take 2.
Scene 9, take 2. So I'm going to go down to this audio here, click on it to change it, and say scene 9, take 2. And now I'm going to go through each one of these clips and name each one here. I'm going to double click on this one, listen to it, get it right for the clap here. I can see the voice starting right there.
C camera scene 9, take 1.
So this is scene 9, take 1. So now I can jump down to my project window here, click on the name, and name it scene 9, take 1. And I'm going to continue doing that till I've got all these files named. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll come back and we'll continue from there. Okay, all these files have now been named. And by the way, I took the S off the beginning. That's not very common, so that was just unintentional there. But instead of S9, it's just 9, take 1, scene 9, take 2, scene 9, take 3, 9 alpha, take 1, 9 alpha, take 2, and so on. So I've got all these shots named off of the audio. Now we're going to look at the video here. I would say with the video, it's not as necessary to rename all these files here. But first of all, I'm going to grab my camera A footage. I'm going to hit Control A, select all my footage. I'm going to drag and drop it into my timeline. So we're just going to go through these one by one and add the audio to them as we go through clip by clip. Usually the very first frame that you see on each individual clip should be the slate, and this is not the case on this thing here, but they finally bring the slate in. And notice here where the slate comes in, you don't see the clap. That's because they're actually pointing that at the camera B right now, and this is our camera A that we're working with. So they lift it up again and show it to the camera A here. And there we go. And here's the sync marker right there. So I'm using my JKL keys to kind of rewind and forward through this. And I'm going to hit my arrow right until I get that little clap right there. I know this is scene 9, take 1 is the name of this shot. And this is roll 1 from our roll 1 from day 1. So now I'm going to go back to my audio files here. And I'm going to find scene 9, take 1. Actually, what I will do here on my video before I actually start, I'm going to trim all this extra footage off. I'm just going to hit the letter Q. It will cut everything to the left and delete it. It'll do a ripple delete. Watch this when I hit the letter Q. It just deleted that excess footage, and the first frame that it's showing now is the slate. So I can double click on scene 1, take 9. I'm going to move out to my audio here. I know that this first one is camera B. Let's listen. That's camera B slate. So I'm going to go to the next one.
A camera scene 9, take 1.
A camera scene 9, take 1. So this audio belongs to this video, and here's the slate sound for that visual. So I'm going to arrow to this clap. Right there is where I hear it clap, and I just put an I for an endpoint. And now if I hit period, it will drop that audio down inside my timeline here and sync it up with my video. So let's play through a little bit of this just to see if it's synced up. And the audio does sync up. I'm going to jump down to my next edit. I'm going to hit arrow down, and let's look at the next one. First of all, I'm going to trim this audio so these are now the exact same length. And I'm going to move into, I find my slate here, and here's the clap right there. So I'm going to arrow back and get it right where it hits. Right there's my visual. Hit Q to eliminate all the trim to the left. Let's go to take 2 here.
B camera scene 9, take 2.
That's B camera, so this has got to be A camera right here.
A camera scene 9, take 2.
Arrow over. Endpoint, period, to drop that in. And let's zoom out and look at that a little bit. And we got a little excess. Let's trim. Just quickly make sure that this audio syncs.
You know me.
Okay, and that audio matches. So we've got 2 files done now. I'm going to get the A camera stuff done and then come back to the B camera. So let me get all this footage done with the A camera, and then I will come back and show you the next step. Just one other clip I want to show here because I want to show the different names here. Because the first shot that took place on this scene, this is scene number 9 that they're shooting. And on scene number 9, the very first shot that they shoot is always going to be named scene 9, take 1, take 2, take 3 till they get it right. And now they are on the next shot, which is now named scene 9 alpha or A, take 1. And then the next shot is going to be scene 9B, 9C, 9D, and so on. So I'm going to finish up this edit. I'm going to finish syncing up all this stuff on A camera, and then I will be right back and show you the next step. Okay, I've got all the audio synced for camera A. So now I'm going to go to my camera B here and do the same thing. I'm going to Option or Alt double click on my B camera. I've got this in list view here. I'm going to select all of my video, and I'm going to drag and drop it in right after my A camera here. And here's my B camera stuff. Notice I use a different camera here, and it has audio that is added to the camera already. It had like an in-camera microphone that worked. First stuff was shot on a Red camera. This stuff's shot on a Sony B camera, as a B camera here. But it does have these added audio channels. If it has those audio channels on there, you're simply going to eliminate them, especially if you don't need that audio, which I don't need. I'm going to hold down Alt and drag across all of my audio here on those new clips and delete. All right, so now I'm going to start syncing audio, and I'm going to do this. As the same process here. This is my B camera here, but I'm going to do this as the same process as I did with the beginning, as I did with the A camera. I'm going to move into this. I'm going to hit L a couple times so it forwards, and there's where the slate claps. I'm going to hold down Shift and arrow backwards, and it jumps 5 frames at a time until I find where that clap is. I'm going to arrow back and forth, and right there is where my clap is. I'm going to zoom into this by hitting plus a couple times, hit my Q, go back to my audio. This is scene 9, take 1. Double click on that. And I already have an endpoint set on my A camera, but I'm going to go to my B camera, zoom in.
Take 1.
Get the clap right there. Put the endpoint right there. Hit period and drop it in. Trim my audio back to make them the exact same length. And go through the same process with all my audio here on the B camera and get everything synced up. One more time. I'm going to play through this. Hit LLL a few times to forward through it. J to rewind. K to stop, and arrow right a few times till I get right there back and forth till I get that slate hitting. Q to eliminate. I've got my scene 9 take 2 Audio loaded.
B camera C9 take 2.
Arrow, 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 arrow right until I get right on that endpoint, and period to drop it in, and that is synced up as well. And I'm going to continue this process here. I'm going to get everything synced up, and then we'll come on to the next process, which is merging clips and organizing them into scene folders. Okay, I've got every shot synced here from day one now in my timeline. I'm going to hit slash above the enter key or the return key, and here's everything all synced together from day one. Now I have to start actually merging these together and getting them ready for the editor. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to zoom up here. I'm going to select these two clips here. This is my first one. This is scene 9, take 1. And I'm going to right click and say merge clips. It'll bring up this window and say, what do you want to rename the two merged clips together as one clip? And I'm going to name these exactly what they're called. This is scene 9, take 1, and I'm going to put a C A at the end for camera A. So this is scene 9, take 1, camera A. Now, before I hit OK, I'm going to do a Control A or a Command A and select all. I'm going to do a Control C and copy that name so it's ready to name my next clip. I'm going to hit OK, and it places this all synced down in here as a new clip as Scene 9, Take 1, Camera A. I'm going to hit Shift 3 and go to my timeline, arrow down, hit the letter D on my keyboard, and it selects both clips. Now I'm going to show you a quick shortcut here that'll save a little bit of time instead of right-clicking and doing merge. They don't have a shortcut for merge clips, but you can create one. I'm going to go under Edit and go to Keyboard Shortcuts. I'm going to tell this to show my Adobe Premiere default, and I'm going to go under my search and type in merge. Now it brings up merge clips right there. Notice it doesn't have a shortcut assigned to this one. So there's a good one that I like if you can find your own if you'd like, but on a Mac I'm going to do Command Alt G, and on a PC I'm going to assign Control Alt G. So I'm going to click on my little shortcut area here. It'll say, what do you want to call it? Now I'm going to hold down Control Alt and hit G, and it programs that as my shortcut now for merging clips. Control Alt G. I'm going to hit OK, and now with this clip selected, Control Alt G, and right there it's on the very first frame of my merged clip. So now I know what to call it. This is going to be, and I can actually hit Command V to paste in the name that I copied before. So Command V, now I just arrow back and change this to Take 2. I can hit OK, Shift 3 to go to my timeline, arrow down, D to select both those clips right there, the letter D as in dog, and Control Alt G. Command V to paste in my name. This is Take 3, arrow back and hit Take 3. Shift 3 to go to my timeline, arrow down to jump to my next edit, D to select those two clips, Control Alt G, Command V to paste, and this is Scene 9 Alpha Take 1. So I'm going to move back and add an A to this. Now I'm going to hit Control A since this is a new shot number, Control C to copy that, and then on the next one I can hit Command V or Control V to add the name and just update it. So I'm going to hit OK, Shift 3 to go to my timeline, arrow down, D to select, Control Alt G, Command V to paste or Control V to paste, arrow back. This is Take 2, and so on. I'm going to continue this till I get to the very end. So let me pause for a second. I'll get back when I get to camera B here. So let me name these and I'll be right back. All right, now that I'm back here, I've got everything in that whole timeline named and numbered over here and listed over here. So now what I'm going to do is prepare this for the editor to make this as a project file that the editor can then import into a timeline. So what I'm going to do here is organize my scene folders. I just have Scene 9 and Scene 10. If you have several scenes, you're going to organize everything into its own folder. So I'm going to grab all my Scene 9 items here, and I'm going to drag them and drop them over my folder icon here and put them into a folder. This is now going to be called Scene 9. Now I'm going to grab my Scene 10 files, drag and drop them over a folder, and name them Scene 10. So now I've got Scene 10 and Scene 9. I'm going to clean this up for the editor here. I'm going to grab these files here, all these items right here. I'm going to put these into a new folder called Sync Day 1. So there's all the sync day 1. It's the same as this project file here. I'm going to hit Control S and save this and update it, all the changes to it. And now this project file here is ready to be delivered to the editor. I've got this left hanging day 1 sync file, and that can be delivered to the editor. The editor is already editing, has an edit going in progress with all of the other scenes that have been shot on other days. Then all they have to do is import this file and add it to their project. Let's show an example of that. So what I'm going to do is go to my desktop here, and I've got my edit project file here. I've got my day one sync that I've been doing. Now this has been delivered to the editor. The editor can double click on the edit project that they have going in progress. Here's the edit project, and with this they've already edited scene 12 and scene 15 from another day's shoot. But now I'm going to import into this already created project here the new scenes that my assistant editor has put together and organized for me. So I'm going to hit Control-I to import, and it will bring up my import window and say, what do you want to import? I'm going to go to my desktop where I've got these files saved. I'm going to say import that day one sync so I can import the new scenes. I'm going to hit open, and it will bring open this little item here, and it will say, do you want to import the entire project or selected sequences? I'm going to say import the entire project, and so it doesn't make a mess, I'm going to tell it create a folder for imported items. It'll stick everything into a new folder. I'm going to hit OK, and there we go. Here's my left hanging day one sync. I can open this up now. I can grab my scene folders out here. Actually, I'm just going to grab everything, drag it to the left, and drop it out and delete that folder. But now I do have scene 9 and C10. I just don't have sequences for them, so I can arrow down my scene 9, grab a file, drag and drop it over to my new item icon down here, bottom right-hand corner, and create a timeline for scene 9. I'm going to grab that and drag it out of that folder, and I'm going to rename this one scene 9. Arrange this by name there, and now I've got scene 9. I'm going to do the same to scene 10. Rename that one scene 10, and drag that out of my scene 10 folder. I've got a scene folder for each scene where I've had the audio synced that's been delivered to me from my assistant editor, and now I can start opening up these timelines here and start editing those scenes. So I can open up scene 9 and get rid of that clip that I dragged in there to create the timeline, and go back to my scene 9 folder, hold down Alt, double click, and it opens up the window for scene 9. I can tell it to show icon view, and now I can start choosing shots to start editing this scene. So that is the syncing process, is also along with the organization. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I will get back with you as soon as I can. Thank you.